Awesome. So hi everyone. Welcome to this workshop. And well, the title, as it says here, is Technology for Impact. And I'll introduce myself, but I'm Ebu Makindi, and we'll get right into it. So today we're gonna kind of learn, or we're gonna look at a couple of things. I really love this topic. I've never really thought, well, the concept has come to me a couple of times, but I've never really thought of it like in detail or in depth. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. So I'm just gonna shorten it from technology to tech. So that's a note there. So what is tech for impact? Some categories or ways you can kind of like distinguish them, although we'll be seeing at the end that really, whatever technology you build for impact is really multifaceted. And then we're going to learn about how to actually build tech for impact. Like, where do I start? And then, last but not the least, we will also look at a real life example and like maybe you get to know a little bit more about me and like the work I've done. So yeah, just want to introduce myself so you kind of know who's giving this talk. Um, my name is Ebolu, it's very long, so don't worry. I just go by Ebu, Ebun, and somewhat silent. And I like to look at myself as a scientific researcher and social entrepreneur. I just finished my bachelor's in computer science at the University of Calgary, and I founded a nonprofit called While She's True in 2022. And we're actually two-time alumni of the Youth Impact Challenge. First in 2022, we were top 40, and then we came back again in 2023 and made it to finalists and eventually tied with the third position. And it was an amazing experience. Like everyone listening or everyone part of this community, you're in the right place. And honestly, the work they're doing is phenomenal because seeing how the resources, the support, everything really helped us grow and how I'm able to even pass this down to people as well through workshops like this and through messages that people have reached out to me. Like it's amazing. And yeah, just there's a bunch of things on the screen, so I'll kind of know. But yeah, this is just our logo for While She's True. And another thing is the gene here is just referring to the research I do. I do a lot of research involving AI and like biology, especially modeling biological systems, genes, genetics, all that fun stuff. Very complicated, um, but well, not really complicated. There's a lot going on, but that's what I'm doing, and I'm actually continuing my master's in September with this. So just wanted to put that there. And the map is like I love to travel. I've been able to travel. Research is giving me the opportunities to travel countries, so that's one reason I really love research because you get to go to conferences and meet cool people that share these same passions with you. So feel free to reach out to me. I'm pretty sure my LinkedIn or um, my email will be shared, my organization email. So if you have any questions, you want to connect on LinkedIn, I'm honestly able to connect. But let's get right into the topic. So, what is tech for impact? To be honest, I don't think there's a concise definition. I was trying to prep like a researcher and look at research papers and stuff, but I couldn't really find stuff. So let's look at our good old dictionary. The idea of technology, something we know, we hear every day. There's a meme, it might be old now, but the technology meme, but it might be old now. It was going on social media, but it's pretty much just using scientific knowledge in practical ways that can be used in industry, in designing new machines to solve problems in our world. And that's the dictionary definition. And then when you think of impact, I like to think of like an like a like an asteroid that hits Earth and causes a huge sort of thing, like it disrupts the place that it hits. I like to think of impact like that. I like to use that illustration, but in this sense, let's think of it as having a positive effect um, on a situation or a person or like anything like that. So that's pretty much what we think of technology and impact. And then when we bring these two together, we pretty much call Tech for Impact as the utilization of technology to drive positive change in our world. Just think of it like that. So, how can we use the scientific knowledge we have, the research we've done to build tools that can make society better? How can you use all the learning, all the math, all the physics, all the chemistry, all the biology that you learn, even the arts, the social sciences? How can you use that to build something that can solve the problems you see in your world? And this is really the core for me of what technology should be about. People look at tech for making money, which is good and is useful for driving things in our world. But when you're building anything, I believe that the core thing at the back of your mind should be, how is this going to solve a world problem? How is this going to change our world? How is it going to impact my society? Um, and this is very, very important because when you start thinking of technology this way, you're going to build it in a meaningful way that's going to actually change the world, that's actually going to cause impact, and that's actually eventually going to make profit. For example, you think of the big guys in tech, for example, maybe let's think Jeff Bezos, creator of Amazon. When he created Amazon, he was probably thinking, how can I like change the e-commerce space? Maybe money was at the back of his mind, but who knows? How can I change the selling space? How can I make things differently? Or we think of Mark Zuckerberg. How can I connect people socially? Maybe they didn't even know if this was going to go big. He's like, let me just build this thing to um, bring people and connect them together. And when you have that mindset as an entrepreneur, and we're going to talk about tools that help us with this later on. When you have that mindset as an entrepreneur, so, or someone that's causing societal change, or what you guys are doing here, once you have that mindset that what am I trying to solve? What's the impact before you start thinking of money or before you even start thinking of the solution? Once you start thinking of I want to solve a problem, everything else follows suit. Everything else literally follows. And from a business standpoint, it works because what you've done is you've identified your problem, you've identified who your market is. So when it comes to providing a solution, there are people that want to use that technology, there are people that want to um, buy the thing you're selling, if that makes sense. So that's why I love Tech for Impact. And it's something that's always driven me as a kid. Like, since I wanted to be an inventor when I was younger. I tried to like put a couple things together. It never worked. But my idea was like, what problem can this solve? I never really thought of, oh, what's the money? How is this going to do like eventually make me rich or famous or all of that? But I was thinking of what's the impact, and I think that's if that's the mindset you get out of this workshop, I would really, really like that's perfect. But let's kind of look at some ways or what are some of the categories of tech for impact. So before we start, let's look at a company. So Verytree. You might have heard of them. If you know Tentree, they're like I think I don't know if they're a child company and Tentree is like the parent company, but they're associated. So Tentree, the company that plants trees for every time you buy their clothing, where you can search them up. They're really cool. And Verytree here is a subsidiary of them, and they actually work hand in hand with Tentree to achieve this purpose. So Veritree again, it's a Vancouver-based climate tech startup that was launched in 2019. Again, speaking out of Tentree, and their main goal is that they offer businesses a solution that pretty much shows them what exactly is the impact of all my like CSR mandates of my climate initiatives. It really shows companies that, okay, if for every person that buys this so product, I'm planting maybe three trees for them. It helps these companies. It gives them that data, and so they're like, okay, this is the data, and I can report this. I can tell my customers this is what we're doing in terms of trying to meet our mandates in terms of being in line with climate change and environmental things like that. So that's what Veritree does. And the technology they use things like blockchain, they use drones, they use AI, they use sensors. They pretty much use a bunch of technology, but I think they call themselves a nature-driven technology solution. So their goal is yes, they're for profit. Yes, they are making money. They charge their clients and customers. We're not a charity by any means, but their technology is making environmental impact. It's really, really cool. I find it quite interesting. I also was reading up on them and I saw like one of the sensors they use a sensor that keeps track of the sounds the birds in the forest make to measure environmental health of a forest. And I was like, that's pretty cool. That's really, really cool. That technology could be used for something else. Even blockchain, we use blockchain in a lot of the stuff, cryptocurrency and whatnot. But they've taken that technology and they've used it to track data for companies so that they know the climate impact that these companies are making. It's a really, really genius solution. And this type of company or this type of impact they're making is what I'll categorize as environmental impact. So at Youth Impact Challenge, there are two main categories, either making environmental impact or social good. So when you think technology for impact, there are two overarching ways you can make impact, I guess, in environmental, and then we'll look at social good as well. But I'm gonna make a little disclaimer later on. But yeah, this is where nature-based technology solutions are built to solve the world's pressing environmental needs. I actually remember in 2023 when I was a finalist, I do not remember the exact like the team name and everything, but I remember the team that won the competition, the overall prize, they were building an AI solution to track wildfires, and that was just genius because we live in Canada. We know the wildfire situation. I'm currently in Winnipeg, although I'm kind of based in Calgary, but my family's in Winnipeg. And every day you step out, the wildfires in Manitoba are something else. You're like, yeah, I need a mask. But these young people decided to use technology to make good environmental impact by seeing, oh, if maybe we could use AI predictions to track when wildfires will happen, then we can actually prevent or stop it. Um, there's so many genius solutions like that. And what is going to happen is they're going to these when people start thinking this way, they're going to build these technology solutions. And without them thinking of, oh, what's the money? What's this? What's that? People are going to be like, this is a solution we see. You're making real impact. We want to support this. We want to take this forward. We want this to be implemented. And it's just genius. It's genius. And um, yeah, so that's pretty much what environmental impacts could be about. So I want you to think, what are some other solutions that you see in your world that's using technology for environmental impact? I know people have made like robots or things to help with conservation efforts. People have they've made things to help with like even with deforestation or all of that fun stuff, or even like climate change. People have made technology solutions to help with recycling, with carbon capturing, with um, reusing the waste, the things that we'll normally throw out. I was once at a competition, and there was a team that had devised a solution, a prototype solution where they could take clothes and extract them into fuel, and use it to power things. So I'm not sure the exact fuel they were able to extract, but that was just so genius to me. And I want you to start thinking about that. Some of you have solutions like this, and this is really great. Um, next, next company I want to talk about is Fable. So Fable is actually a Toronto-based company, and I love them so much. The reason I also love them is their founder is a woman in tech, so that's really exciting. So they're the only, this is directly from their website, the only accessibility platform powered by people with disabilities. So what they do is they connect product teams with real users that that need assistive technology, and they allow them to test these things. And this is so amazing because what they're doing here is they're solving a social need. Um, y- every day, companies are building technologies, and they're trying to be as diverse, they're trying to be as inclusive, they're trying to ensure the technologies that they're building can be used by everyone in the world. We don't just want able-bodied people to be able to use these technologies. We want everybody to be able to use these technologies. And oftentimes, the people that are testing these technologies cannot relate. They don't know what it's like to maybe to maybe have your font size be a little bit larger, or to have someone read out the text for you. They don't understand these things. But Fable solved that problem by saying, okay, what impact can we make, right? What impact can we make using how can we solve this problem and also make a social impact? So on one end, they're using technologies by having a human first tech platform for testing these tools. But on the other hand, the people that these technologies are going to be built for, they're like, wow, this actually works, right? It's not just plain paper research. It's actually real people with the same struggles I have. They've tested these things. So it's phenomenal. It's fantabulous. And this is what I will categorize under social impact. So again, it's positive social change brought about by the use of technology. But it's not always a clear division. Like, sometimes companies can be multifaceted. Not only they might not only do be impacting the environmental side of things, but they might also impact the social side of things. I don't know how well this would work, but I will share my sound, and I just have a video, but hopefully the video can also come out. But yeah, let's watch this quick video. And
what if dozens of the world's largest cities lost power overnight? Life would switch off for more than 100 million people. But what if these cities never had the power to switch the lights on to begin with? In countless rural communities worldwide, nearly 1 billion people have never had access to electricity. Imagine health clinics struggling to run without reliable energy, kids burning kerosene to read after sunset, families enduring sickness from toxic fuels, and at night, a sense of fear while walking in the dark. 13 years ago, two young entrepreneurs set out to switch the lights on and bring power to rural communities that never had reliable electricity. They formed a company called D-Light and built a low-cost solar lamp and solar energy system that could be purchased for as little as $4. In providing electricity, they also sparked opportunity and created thousands of new jobs.
12 years since Acumen first invested in D-Light. They truly believed that though no one had done it, they were going to eradicate kerosene from this earth.
We had companies and partners and all sorts of people who were helping us when they really shouldn't have, but I think it was because we had that sense of vision, and people really believed we were sincere about it, and we're gonna just work like hell to make it happen.
Today, D-Light sells over 500,000 solar products a month. In Kenya alone, 30% of rural households own a D-Light product.
We look at D-Light supplementing what the government is doing and being able to go an extra mile to look at other facets of development of the community, which is a delight to us, indeed.
In 2020, D-Light made history, transforming 100 million lives with access to affordable solar energy.
We've reached the 100 million person goal. That's 100 million people are getting energy from solar that D-Light has brought them. And it feels like we're barely just starting.
Congratulations, D-Light. You've shown us all what a moral imagination and a hard-edged hope can do to solve one of the world's greatest challenges. Acumen's proud to be with you on this journey to illuminate the lives of 100 million more.
Here's to sparking change in 100 million lives. We're proud to partner with you on the journey to ensuring everyone has access to affordable, clean energy.
Awesome. So that was quite inspirational. Oh, sorry. Moved a little too to the back. But yeah, D-Light, I remember when I took a social entrepreneurship class, which I'll actually be talking a little bit more later on about. But D-Light, when I heard of them, and I actually watched a video about how this was an old video of how they were eliminating kerosene in rural India. And I was like, this is so impressive. Notice how the CEO said, initially when we started, what was driving us was vision, and people knew that that was what was going to get us through. We're just going to make it happen. And that's what makes an impact-focused entrepreneur, an impact-focused innovator, an impact-focused youth different. You're not thinking, you're not necessarily thinking like funding comes in, but you're not thinking income, you're not thinking profit, because profit will come once you're thinking more so vision, because then you're thinking, what can I do to drive that vision? What do I need to do? Once you have that mindset, it becomes reality. Like imagine 100 million people by 2020 that were that no longer need to use kerosene. If you don't know, kerosene is a type of fuel that people burn. It's a little bit, it's more affordable, and people burn it to have sources of light, and also they use it for cooking. But one thing about kerosene, it's highly flammable, releases bad toxins, bad for the environment, etc., etc., etc. And D-Light was eliminating that by providing affordable solar energy to people without electricity access. So yeah, they've impacted millions of people. They've reduced tons of CO2 emissions. They're helping people. So kids that had to use kerosene to study at night, they no longer need kerosene. They can just use D-Lights to study. So you can see that it's helping both that social aspect and also that environmental aspect. That social aspect in the sense that lives of again 190 million people is enabling education, work, savings, because they're no longer buying kerosene over and over and over. They just have that initial investment in D-Light, and it is, right? It's there for them. Also that environmental impact. No need for those fumes to be I've used kerosene before in my life, so I know how it can be, right? How it can be subtly like not subtly, it can be toxic. So and it's saving CO2 emissions because it's a fossil fuel product as well. All you need is just to install a solar panel or just charge it with the sun. That's renewable energy. That's good energy. So it's amazing what they're doing. And you can see you can't really put them into one box. So sometimes you might be thinking, okay, what I'm doing doesn't really feel environmental, doesn't really fit social. You might even have your own category, and that's fine. The highlight here is impact, right? Remember, positive change, that asteroid, making a positive change. Maybe I shouldn't use asteroid, but think of something that just causes a magnificent change. And it's a chain reaction that keeps going and going and going and going. Once you have that impact lens, that lens of impact, you're good to go. So it's really exciting what you guys are already doing here with Youth Impact Challenge. And yeah, as you keep moving forward, as you keep building your businesses, let it not just be a summer thing you did for fun with friends. Let that vision really drive you. Because you don't know the thousands, the millions that you're going to impact later on. But let's get right into it. So, what are you going to build, or what are you building? And again, so how can you two build technology for impact? Let's get right into it. So, we've talked about other companies doing all these great things, Fable, Veritree, but how can you build what are you going to build yourself? So the first thing I want you guys to think of is what problem do you want to solve? So you might have been in an entrepreneurship class, you may not have been in an entrepreneurship class, and you may have learned a little bit about this, a little bit not about this, but that's fine. But I'm gonna kind of give you my simple steps as to how to kind of walk you through when you want to build stuff. So you're inspired, you're like, yes, or maybe you already know what you're doing, but you're maybe thinking to pivot or you want to build it more. The first thing you're thinking of is what problem do you want to solve, right? You need to have a problem. Never a solution. Starting from a solution is not always the best approach because you're just gonna figure out, like trying to squeeze a problem into your solution is never the best approach when it comes to impact. Because if not, what's going to drive you is your solution and not solving that problem. So again, the first way, again, I've identified a problem. What is your personal pain? What's that thing that keeps you up at night? What's that thing that makes you shed tears? What's that thing that you find so heartbreaking in the world? What's your personal pain? What's the thing you've struggled with? The nonprofit I started with a personal pain. I would go to class and I'm only seeing like two other girls in my class, or when I go to my community, there are no opportunities for young girls to learn how to code. And these were girls like I was a new incomer in Canada, so my parents generally didn't have the funding to maybe take me for coding classes or take my sister that was interested at that time for coding classes. And these opportunities were not available. In the industry, there weren't a lot of women that looked like me. So that was a personal pain, and I wanted to solve that problem. Another thing is what's happening in the world. Every day we hear so many environmental and social issues. Um, which one is catching your interest? It might not be something you faced, but what is really a pain point for you that you see in the world and you want to solve? And then the other one is just honestly actively look around, research, go online. You may not have seen it in the news, you may not have experienced it, but go online and search what are the problems the world is facing. And I'm telling you, from there, you will find a problem. There's too many problems in the world, and few too many social entrepreneurs, social um, impact focused youth that are looking to solve these problems. So begin to think like that. Now you've identified a problem. Now what? That's where most of you guys are here. You already have a prototype solution or maybe a solution you've been working on for a while and you just want Youth Impact Challenge to really help you like a launch pad, right? So, but how, but if you've identified a problem, there are also so many things you still need to think about in terms of ensuring that, yes, I get this right. And there are a lot of tools. I'm going to introduce you to two sort of tools or systems that you can use to help you build for impact. The first one I want to tell you about is something called systems thinking. So some of you might be familiar with it, some of you might have learned it, you might see it again in another workshop. But systems thinking is a way of looking at a complex system and connecting the interconnectedness, the interdependencies, the things in general, not just an isolated component. And I'll talk about a really good example really soon, really very soon. But let's look at this picture. So these are a couple of blind scientists. It's a very popular picture and illustration used when you think of systems thinking. This is an elephant, and these are some blind scientists that are observing this. Somebody touches the tusks of the elephant, you're like, oh, it's a spear. Somebody touches the ear of the elephant and say, oh, it's a fan. Someone touches the tail, it's like, oh, it's a rope. Someone touches the body and say it's a wall. Someone touches the feet and say it's a tree. Someone touches the the nose, and says it's a snake. Is anybody right? No. Even if you were to combine all of this, what's a spare, a fan, a wall, a rope, a tree, a snake? They're all wrong because you're all considering one aspect of the elephant. They're not considering every single thing. And that's what we want to do when we think of systems thinking. There are way too many people that want to solve a problem without understanding what are the deep rooted things that are causing this problem. And that's going to help us build our solution. That's going to help us build our technology solution. For example, D-Light. Imagine if they were like, oh, there's kerosene. What if we build an electric what if we build a rechargeable lamp that uses batteries? What if batteries are not accessible? What if batteries are more expensive, right? They had to think of the financial cost. Oh, is it because of the cost people can get electricity? Is it because of accessibility? Or what if D-Light was this gigantic fan thing that one has to use like a huge truck? And what if these places are not accessible? So they had to think of portability too. They had to think of, okay, these things are we need something that's quite portable or something that's quite accessible. Or what if D-Light decided to build some complex thing that you have to put some weird code inside? It works well, it's portable, it's cheap, but you have to put some weird code. But some of these people haven't had the opportunity to go to get education. They had to think of all these connected systems and build a solution that considered the interconnectedness, that considered all the things going on. And yeah, so that's what systems thinking is. It's a mindset. You're looking for patterns, you're looking for underlying relationships that are responsible for the behavior of the system. From my experience, the biggest thing to change when solving a problem is the mindset of people. When you're building anything that's impact-wise, you need to think of the mindset. What are people's preconceived notions? How do they think? And we're actually going to look at the 6 conditions of systems change. So, first of all, this is explicit, so things that we see outside. The first kind of layer, these are policies, the practices, the resource flows. What are those impending things that we see on the outside that hinder change from happening? Then the second one is more relational. Those semi-explicit changes, the relationships, the connections. What are the power dynamics? Who's in control? Is there nepotism involved? Are there monarchical powers that are preventing these from changing? Right? You're thinking of the relational change. Do people view gender views differently? What are those relation changes that we need to break? And then the last one is transformative change. This is implicit that needs to happen in the minds of people. This is usually the hardest. But once you start thinking about all these conditions and all these conditions of systems change, honestly, a solution would flow out and you begin to understand the problem and then you can solve it fully. You can solve it fully and not just a surface level thing that doesn't end up working. There are lots and lots of resources in systems thinking and this, so I encourage you to do your research, but it's a really good way to think about things. Now, the second type of tool I'm going to talk about is the theory of change. Now, it's pretty much a practical diagram or model that explains how and why a project or company expects to create positive impact for people and the planet. So this one, remember, systems thinking is helping us understand the problem by looking at the interconnectedness of the whole system rather than components. And then theory of change is pretty much helping us go from this idea of how do I actually get to my impact? What am I putting in? And how do I actually reach my impact? So it outlines the desired change, the steps to achieve it, the assumptions behind those steps, the impact from the perspectives of the beneficiaries, and it's all within that specific context. So again, this is a very simplified view, and I'll show you an example of one I made for something else. So you have your input, and then you're thinking, what are the assumptions? So input is what do I need to put in, and then output, and then the outcome for the people, and then the long-term impact. So you also need to consider assumptions. What are assumptions behind these things? And let me give you an example so it kind of makes sense. So, for example, if you have not been living under a rock, or maybe you just don't know it, one of the best chocolate brands out there is Tony's Chocolonely. I actually got to try them for the first time over the weekend, and I really loved it. I've been a fan of theirs ever since I discovered them through a video by I think it's CNBC Make It or something. It was one of these or Bloomberg, one of these companies, and I was really impressed. So how they started was a company, and they're not really like technology for impact, but they're a social enterprise, and they impact a lot. So how it started was a journalist from the Netherlands traveled to, I believe, West Africa, and he began to notice that there was a lot of inequality in the chocolate industry. So there was a lot of like child subtle child, not subtle, like child trafficking going on, human trafficking. Kids that were supposed to be in schools were being put on these cocoa farms to pick cocoa, and these big chocolate companies, I will not mention names, will buy this cocoa at a lower rate because they use inhumane practices to harvest it because they're using underpaid, they're using child labor, they're using underpaid workers. And he was covering the story and he was like, you know what? These big companies are not going to change anything. I'm going to make my own company. So he went ahead and made his own company. And that's where comes in Tony's Chocolonely. And from what I heard, he's no longer like really a part of the company, but he still keeps them in charge. He still does his like journalism and stuff, but they're owned by other people now. But they still fulfill that mission. They've actually won so many awards for being really, really good in terms of achieving impact. And yeah, so Tony's Chocolonely, I made a theory of change for them a while back. It's a lot, but let's look at it. So the input here, so what they do is they make their own chocolate, but they use cocoa beans that are ethically sourced, and it's really, really amazing. So their target customers, again, they want chocolate consumers like myself. I really love chocolate. So this makes me so happy when I see people that are making chocolate from a source that is wonderful. And because I'm not from a country that produces a lot of exports a lot of cocoa, but I'm from a country in West Africa, so a lot of their cocoa are actually sourced from West Africa. So it makes me so happy. But yeah, again, the inputs is cocoa beans. They're taking those cocoa beans from the farmers that they source. So they have zero child labor in their source of cocoa beans. And again, the assumption they make here is that chocolate products are highly desirable for consumers and that they're willing to pay the high price point. Again, because they're not using cheap labor, their chocolate is more expensive than the average one we always use. Then next we look at the output. So what's the output of the cocoa beans? The output is again the quantity of chocolate products sold and the amount of cocoa beans that they source. Um, and then the outcomes that we see from the work they do is that we see an increased ethical sourcing of cocoa beans, children eradicated from child labor, higher livable wages for farmers, so farmers are paid what they are worth. And the assumption again is that there's 100% traceability of cocoa. So they make this assumption that they can trace their cocoa to the source. Their cocoa isn't gotten from a kid that should be in school and is instead working on a farm. They have that assumption that they can trace, and they've been doing really, really well. Another one, and let's look at their impact. What are the impacts, right? The first is that inequality. So impacts are more long term, and this is what we want to get to with with the technology that we're building. The impact we see here is inequalities in cocoa industry eradicated, improved quality and productivity, improved quality of life, health for the farmers, increased education levels. So kids are going to school because their parents are being able to, they are paid what they're worth, then their parents are able to pay and send the kids to school, etc., etc. And then there's decrease in forced labor in the cocoa industry. So this is their theory of change. So I'll encourage you for the work you're doing. Before YIC finals, after whatever feedback you get, try making a theory of change. It's really going to help you think, okay, what am I putting into this and how do I actually trace it to the impact I want to see? So what if the technology part? We talked about the problem part, how to figure out the problem, how to think about the problem, how to go from the proposed kind of like solution or problem to impact that I want to make. But what if the technology part? So this one is really, really fast, but I wanted to just talk a little bit about this. So in building technology, I love to research, and I would say whenever you're building everything, even if you do not like reading research papers, think of yourself as a researcher. you're trying. I like to just imagine myself in a imaginary lab coat in a lab. Um, think of yourself as a researcher. Think of the sci-fi movies you watch and how the researchers are always trying to like solve problems. One of my favorite fictional researchers, I do not know her name, but the researcher with the lovely hair and glasses in Spider-Man, um, not Sp I think it's Spider-Verse. Yeah, the one with Miles Morales, the first one. I really like. I don't know why. I just think she was really cool figuring out how to um kind of figuring out the dimensions and stuff. But let's not go there. But I really love her. I know she's kind of supported the bad guy, but I always think of myself like that. So think of yourself as a researcher. You're trying to solve this big world problem that doesn't exist before in the world. Um, become one. Look at papers, look at what's been done before. Oftentimes, people want to build something completely novel. It's not even about you building something completely novel. It's about taking what's been done before, combining it, and using it in a new way. That's where the newness, the novelty comes in. The second thing I want to say is find your team. Sometimes you're not the best at maybe coding or building robots or even whatever technology you're doing, or if it's like a biosensor or something you're building, you're not the best at that, but you have that idea, you've researched it. Let's say you're a sociology major and you want to build an app to foster a specific social change. You have that skill set in terms of you know what solution will work, but you don't know how to code. Find your team. This is why I season teams. Find your team. I personally am more the coding type, the technology type, but I didn't really know the business kind of side of things. So one of our teammates is actually she helps us with a lot of the business side of things, the making pitch slide decks, networking with people, connecting us with people in industry. So find your team. There are people that always well, don't be afraid to search on LinkedIn and reach out to people. Hey, are you interested in this? Or talk to friends, talk to classmates. They might be interested. A lot of the people that work volunteer at our nonprofit, I know them personally. Like I personally invited them. Some people did apply, but the core team members, a lot of them are like our classmates, friends that I reached out to because I saw they had that skill set. So don't be shy and find your team when you're building your technology. The second thing is you need to be human-centered. We're not building our stuff for robots. We're not building it for inanimate objects. You're building it for people. You're solving a lot of problems are people problems. Even in as much as we love the environment, it's because we love ourselves. And I'm telling you, even if we love the animals, we love animals. I love animals so much. But the truth is, eventually, it all comes down to the people side of things. So let your design be human-centered. Think of the people first. And that's why doing a theory of change, thinking of this, using a thinking approach is going to help you. Think of the people first, because that's the hardest part to solve. That's the hardest part to solve. Once you're able to solve it, that's it. That's it. And then another thing I want to say is use a DBTL cycle. So it's design, build, test, and learn. So um, you design it on whatever you design it, you build this physical thing, then you test it out, and then you learn, and then you start again. It's a cycle. It doesn't stop. Well, eventually it might stop when you maybe no longer do this project, but the truth is, as every company keeps going through this process, tomorrow Amazon's gonna come with they first started with Amazon, now Amazon Music, now Prime, now Audible, and they're gonna keep coming up with new innovation. Same thing with Uber. Uber started with just Uber. They went with Uber Eats. They went with Uber Ride, Uber Pets, Uber Teens. All these companies, they're always thinking of ways. Even D-Lights. D-Lights probably didn't start. Now they have solar panels. They have other products. They don't just have the tiny lamp that people can use. They have multiple things that they're doing. So you're always designing, you're always building, you're always testing, you're always learning what do the humans that I'm building for, what the solution that I want, how is this problem like evolving and how can I change this problem? How can I solve this problem? The world is also changing with AI and all this fun stuff. So you're also thinking, how can I incorporate these technologies, these new technologies? Tomorrow something else is going to come up. How can I incorporate this new technology in my solution? So I wanted to bring that up. To round us off here, I wanted to talk about like the work I do and just to give you guys a personal story so you're not like a little like disconnected from what's happening in real world. So let's go to the website. So this is our website. Hopefully it'll be shared. You can check us out. So we're called Wow She's True. And if you had checked our website beginning of this year, this was not what it looked like. So again, we've changed in that sense. We've changed our website. And our goal, if you go to About Us, our goal again is we see that technology is being used every day in the world. And we are using technology in a new way where we're not just building, but we're teaching young girls how to build technology to solve the world's problems. So we've noticed a problem, not a lot of young girls in technology, in computer science spaces, and software engineering spaces, or not a lot of opportunities that really inspire the next generation of female tech leaders. And we saw that as a problem. I saw that as a problem in my community. And we started off Wow She's True. And honestly, it is a real issue and we're solving a real problem. How do I know? We've taught lots of girls right now. We're running a free camp, 6 weeks, and parents keep asking, is there space? I want my kid to come in, not because they're like, oh, this would be really fun, but because they're seeing the things that their children are building. They're seeing the need for these kinds of things. So that's what we do. And in our sense, let's think of what we've learned today. In our sense, what's the problem? Where we don't talk more, like our solution can always change. Our solution changed, but we first thought about the problem. We see that not a lot of young women are a part of technology. Not a lot of women, of girls in student groups are interested in being a part of technology. That was the problem we noticed. And we are like, so how can we solve it? I did not just feel like teaching kids coding for free. So we started thinking, what are the barriers? What are the systematic issues? One of it was accessibility. So parents not able to take kids to camps because of rides and stuff. Maybe they only had one family car and one parent has taken it to work. So we were like, okay, online. And that also worked well because it was also during COVID. We thought about that, but I thought most likely online because of it's more accessible. Secondly, costs. There are so many platforms out there that teach coding online, but they're all paid. We didn't want to do that. We wanted to overcome that challenge of cost. So that's why we decided to go through that's why we offer free computer programming classes for girls. The last one was this idea of mentorship. So let's say you attend our classes, you learn, but there's still that inherent system of not seeing people like yourself. I could be empowered, but if I'm not seeing anyone like me, I might just shy away and turn my back. So we said to solve that problem, let's create mentors. Let's give our kids mentors. So they're seeing people that look like them, people that think like them, and people that have been through what they're being through, that what they're going through. So again, yeah, that's the problem we solve, and that's what we do at Wow She's True. That's how we're using technology in our own sense for impact. I encourage you to check out our website. But again, think of all these other companies, D-Light, Veritree, Fable. There's so many companies out there that are using technology in our world for impact. They're using scientific knowledge, building tools, machinery, um, using innovation, biotech, um, to solve problems that we see in our world today. So I think that's where I will end off my workshop. And thank you so much. Again, I am accessible using LinkedIn, and I will share it with you guys. And also feel free to email me. But I will be stopping over here.